Thank you, Sheriff. Y'all may be seated. Members of the jury will recall during the state's case of punishment phase. Sir, if you could please raise your right hand in front of the jury. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth. Please have a seat. You're responding to questions from Mr. Snipes. You can use the microphone for Mr. Gill. You may proceed.
Thanks, sir. Can you hear me okay, sir?
I can, I believe.
All right. State your first and last name, spell your name for the record.
Timothy Branaman, Branaman.
How are you currently employed, sir?
I'm a psychologist in private practice.
And what is your position with regard to the Texas State Board of Examiners for psychologists?
I'm a board member and I'm the appointed chair for the psychology board.
And if you could not be quite as close to that microphone because there's some feedback there, I think it'd be better for the ladies and gentlemen. All right. And what educational degrees do you have, sir?
I have an undergraduate degree in government and communications. I have a master's degree in counseling and student personnel. I have a second master's degree in psychology as well as a doctoral degree in psychology.
What kind of training have you undergone, sir, in the field of psychology?
I did a postdoc in clinical practice in a hospital setting as one of the obesity and risk factor programs back when after finishing my doctoral training. I subsequently did training in the area of forensic psychology as well. I also have specialized training in the area of psychopharmacology.
What licensing and board certifications do you have, doctor?
I have specifically the board certified in forensic practice by the American Board of Professional Psychology.
What is your experience in the field of psychology, sir?
I have worked in private practice from the mid-'80s. I have worked in hospital settings. I more recently, after 2007, have shifted away from general clinical practice into solely forensic practice, which I had been part of my practice from the time that I started practicing in the mid-'80s.
Okay. And what specifically did I ask you to do to assist the ladies and gentlemen of the jury in deciding what sort of punishment, if we got there, we should assess in this case?
You asked me to review a evaluation that was conducted by Dr. Philip Roos back, I believe, in 2011. It was a pre-employment evaluation of Mr. Oliver.
Okay. And that was for his employment at the Bald Springs Police Department, correct?
That's correct.
And do you do that sort of thing yourself?
I do. That generally is actually when there's been a rejection of the individual and appeals. Different departments have different procedures, but the suburban departments around Dallas have an appeals process, and I frequently serve on appeals panels doing assessments and offering a second opinion with regard to fit for duty.
What is the standard process for pre-employment evaluation of police officers, sir?
An individual who is a candidate, they have been through a vetting process with the department before being referred for the psychological evaluation. They come in, they complete basic intake information, they complete a paper and pencil written history and fill that in. They may complete a sentence completion form, which is a type of psychological assessment tool. Then they generally complete at least one test and probably more often two or three. And then following that and the scoring of those tests, the individual is interviewed by the evaluator. The purpose of the evaluation or the interview is to fit that assessment information from the test together with an opinion of the evaluator.
Did you review the evaluation that Dr. Ruse did on the defendant in this case?
I did.
And would that include assessment materials?
Yes.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what that is.
The assessment that Dr. Roos did involved a test called the PEP-Q, which is Psych Evaluation Personality Questionnaire. It is a standardized instrument that's commonly used with pre-employment of protection service candidates. He also administered a brief intellectual screening called the Shipley, and he had Mr. Oliver complete a sentence completion form as well as a history form, which I mentioned.
Okay. PEP-Q is just an acronym, P-E-P-Q, is that right?
That's right.
Did you also review what's called a psychological social survey?
Yes.
What is that?
Essentially, that's the history form that the individual completes. Essentially, a psychological social history can be gathered in part by a written form and filling in, responding to questions, and then generally, at least in my practice, I go over that with a candidate and elaborate on it or get fuller responses if needed.
Did you review a report that was submitted to the police department that was signed by Dr. Roos?
I did.
And do you know what an L3 form is?
Yes.
What is that?
Certification for an individual to be certified as a law enforcement officer.
Did you review an L3 form pertaining to the defendant?
Yes.
What stood out from your review of the evaluation from Dr. Roos, sir?
What stood out to me was it was not evident that Dr. Roos had ever actually interviewed the individual. I cannot say that with certainty, but what I base that on is the reports that I generally review and the ones that I prepare myself include details from the interview of the individual. There wasn't any evidence of that in the report that was prepared by Dr. Roos. In fact, the report prepared by Dr. Roos essentially was cut and pasted from the computer-generated report of the PEP-Q with some addition to it, including the intellectual assessment score from the Shipley that I mentioned.
You indicated that the report stated the presence of significant psychological adjustment problems. What degree of concern might those adjustment problems have raised?
In my practice, it would have raised significant concerns.
Why?
Because they suggested that the individual, in this case Mr. Oliver, was at risk. There was personality features that at a lower level would have been a strength, but to the excess that they were present, they were potentially problematic. Additionally, one that particularly stood out.
Doctor, let me interrupt you for a second. You're doing a lot of feedback. Sit back a little further, but keep speaking loud, okay?
Something like that one. What's that do?
All right. So, despite that, did Dr. Roos recommend the defendant for hire as a police officer with Gulf Springs?
Yes, it did.
Let me ask you this. You're testifying as a witness for the prosecution today. Normally, you testify for the defense. Is that right, sir?
More often than not.
And you are being paid for your testimony?
I'm being paid for my time out of office, yes.
Okay. Were there any indications in the defendant's questionnaires that you reviewed that might have raised concerns in addition to those from the tests that you reviewed?
There were.
What were those?
May I reference my notes?
You may.
Generally, these would be items that I would be exploring with the individual during the interview that I would conduct. Excuse me. Okay, yes, the sentence completion form was what I was particularly referencing here. A sentence completion form essentially starts with sentence stems, and that actually has the individual complete those. So it's a matter of the individual's response. And generally these evaluations are very cut and dried, and you see pretty much the same thing every time. Some of the ones that stood out, though, that was, for example, what was your most difficult experience joining the Army and leaving the Army, which certainly on the face of it I would understand it. But this would be an example of a question that I would want to explore in the interview, and what was difficult in the first place about joining the Army, and what particularly was difficult about leaving the Army. Worst experience in your life, sending friends home in body bags. Again, I could certainly understand that, but in the context of conducting an evaluation like this, I would want to understand what the impact of that had been and how the candidate had coped with that particular experience. It wouldn't be a rule out certainly in and of itself, but it would raise concern. Expectation of self and others, basically anger itself for making too many mistakes, wanting others to know that I'm a hard worker, wanting a supervisor to be visible. But with regard to those, none of those on the face of them are rule outs. Those would be items that I would want to understand further to know how they played into the individual's functioning, particularly in light of the test results that I described.
Do you know what a protective services report is?
Yes.
What is it?
Protective Services Report is a specialized report that goes with a PEP-Q that's specifically designed to address the issues and qualities that are important for law enforcement officers as well as other protective services personnel.
Did you review the protective services report for the defendant?
I did.
Did you have any concerns based on your review of that report?
Yes.
Anything about his opinion of himself?
Yes.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury about that.
Well, having a lot of self-confidence is basically a good thing in a law enforcement officer. That's not a bad thing. However, as with anybody's personal strengths, too much of a good thing can sometimes be a problem, because if you're overly confident, it may affect your decision-making process. You may act hastily or trust your judgment in an overly confident manner in a particular situation. It was a concern, particularly with Mr. Alder, based on having a concrete thinking process, and the PEP-Q also assesses emotional or intellectual reasoning, problem solving, abstract thinking, and one's ability to figure things out. And he scored in the below average range on that. And when you put together problem weaknesses in reasoning and quick thinking and problem solving with overconfidence, as well as some other factors that were present in the test results, it's not a good mix.
What about observations that you made pertaining to his normal personality functions?
With regard to normal personality, one of those would be the overconfidence. That is confidence is a part of the spectrum, and basically what one is doing when they're doing a pre-employment evaluation is they're screening in. Basically, screening in the candidate means that you're looking for those strengths as compared to the average person that qualifies them to be a law enforcement officer. Then you look at those qualities that might be considered more pathological in nature, such as poor emotional adjustment or the presence of anxiety or depression. What stood out in the pathology-related section was the threat immunity, and Mr. Oliver, at least based on his responses to that test, believing that there was no threat that he could not tolerate. This is an item that is not generally endorsed by law enforcement candidates, while his thrill-seeking score was not elevated into the totally above average range. It was also at the very high end of the average range, so it also stood out in my review.
What about emotional adjustment, Doctor?
I'm sorry?
Emotional adjustment.
I need to look back in my notes if I might. The self-confidence, the high opinion of himself, as well as emotional adjustment in the area of interpersonal relationships, it indicated he's not particularly warm and friendly, pretty insensitive to the feelings of others. I mentioned low reasoning ability, and then difficulty in generating alternatives, and then high expectations of himself, which again can be a strength in an individual in terms of pushing themselves, but high perfectionism sometimes gets projected onto other people as well as and can cause interpersonal problems.
Did you make any observations about the possibility that he had threat immunity and thrill seeking?
Yes, the threat immunity and thrill seeking I had commented on.
And his level of assurance that might make him not be able to anticipate the negative consequences of his actions?
Exactly, yes, the high self-confidence level, which was excessively high. I mean, we're not talking about just at the upper end of the normal range. We're talking about a very high level of confidence, and that in conjunction with the more concrete thinking process was the particular concern.
Now, you said that Dr. Ruse recommended him for employment with the Balch Springs Police Department. Would you have, sir?
No, I wouldn't.
Why not?
Based on what I saw there, with no justification, Dr. Ruse did not provide any kind of awareness of those problems. He provided no rationale for what might explain those potential problems away. Just my sense in reading the report was he cut and pasted from a program into that report and signed off on it.
All right, pass the witness, Judge.
Cross-examination.
You just said it was your sense in reading that report?
I'm sorry.
Let me get this microphone over here a little closer. And I want you to tell me if you can't hear my question, all right?
Okay.
You have an earpiece in. It's
Yes,
helping you hear these questions, right?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Were you able to hear what Mr. Snipes was asking you?
Was I able to hear Mr. Snipes' what?
Were you able to hear what he was asking you?
I generally did, yes.
We're you're generally talking about someone's life, doctor.
I understand.
Did you hear the questions?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, I want to make sure you hear my questions also. I probably won't have quite as many as Mr. Snipes.
Good.
All right. When was it that you reviewed these test results and findings of Dr. Roos?
I originally received them back in the fall of last year.
So fall of 2017?
Yes.
And who was it that sent them to you?
Mr. Snipes.
And Mr. Snipes agreed to compensate you for your time looking at those reports and testifying here in court. Is that right?
Yes.
And what is your agreement with Mr. Snipes about being paid for your time?
My standard rate is $250 an hour, $2,000 a day.
Do you know how many psychologists Mr. Snipes talked to before he contacted you?
No.
You're certainly not the only psychologist in private practice here in the Dallas area, are you?
Certainly not.
Are there others besides you and Dr. Roos that do the law enforcement pre-employment
There are.
screenings?
Yes.
How many?
I have no idea how many. I'd be speculating. I don't know.
Okay, is it more than 10?
Possibly. I don't know with certainty. It would be speculative. Beyond that, I would guess that there are 10 that I commonly am aware of.
And did you testify that your general involvement with these matters is handling appeals of employment decisions?
Well, with regard to the local departments, yes.
And I was having a little difficulty following you. You speak kind of fast. And so what is it about Roy Oliver that you found unfit for service?
Well, one, I did not interview Mr. Oliver. Based on what I saw and with no explanation for why he was believed to be fit, I could not have passed him on the basis of those test results alone. Based on the test results alone, I would not have passed him.
And you obviously did not have a chance to interview Mr. Oliver, is that right?
That's correct.
And I think what your testimony was that you don't know if Dr. Roos interviewed him or not.
Based on, I do not know, but based on the report, it did not appear that he had.
But you don't know.
I don't know.
Do you know how long Dr. Roos spent with Mr. Oliver?
It would be speculation based on what was administered. I would say that most of it was just Mr. Oliver responding to tests, items, and that might have taken him an hour and a half, maybe. It could have been less, could have been a little bit more. I don't know whether Dr. Roos actually interviewed him or not.
And did Dr. Roos administer the testing?
I don't know. I presume that he did, or somebody at his office did.
And what type of responses would an applicant give on these tests? What type of questions are they responding to?
They're responding to questions about themselves, and these are on a 3-point scale from essentially from not at all like me to I'm not sure to very much like me.
Okay. And give us an example of a question that might be asked that an individual will respond to with 3 choices.
I often get angry.
Okay.
And so, not at all, I'm not sure whether I do or not, or yes, I do.
And what is it about an interview that's important to following up on these questions?
Well, the interview There's always an interview. That's standard procedure. It's a requirement with TCOL, the Commission on Law Enforcement, to do an interview, lay eyes on and interview the individual. In this particular instance, due to the level of concerns, it would have been of critical importance to have that interview in order to know whether this was what the history of this individual would be that would bring this kind of information out on the test results.
All right. And TCOL requires an interview?
Yes.
TCOL requires an interview before the psychologist can sign the L3 certification form, is that right?
Yes.
And Dr. Roos, I believe you testified, signed an L3 certification form certifying Mr. Oliver to be a Ball Springs police officer. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
Do you know if Dr. Roos had interviewed Mr. Oliver and passed him and certified him to be a peace officer on previous occasions?
Do I know if, I'm sorry, say,
Do you know if Dr. Roos had interviewed and tested Mr. Oliver on previous occasions and certified him to be a Texas peace officer?
I don't know.
Would it surprise you to know that Dr. Roos had certified him twice before?
I'm not aware of that.
Well, if Dr. Roos had not done the interview and certified him anyway, would Dr. Roos be malpracticing?
If that was the case, it would raise that question, yes.
Would he be committing a criminal offense by falsely certifying a government document?
I suspect it might.
You certainly wouldn't do that, would you?
I wouldn't.
Of course not. And you don't see any indication that Dr. Roos actually did that, do you?
I have no idea. I would hope not, but I don't know.
Okay. Would you absolutely?
Nothing further, Judge.
What is he finally excused?
For the state, yes, sir.
Subject to recall.
Sir, you may stand.
released?
You are released for right now. Please don't discuss your testimony with anybody else. You can leave that right there. Thank you very much. Mr. Snipes, call you next witness, please.
Call Odell Edwards.
Mr. Hearns. Come on up here, if you would, please, sir. Before you had a seat, would you put your hand right? So the testimony you're about to give will be the truth. Please have a seat. Will you respond to any questions from Mr. Snipes, and perhaps also the Mr. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, sir. Please state your full name for the record. Spell your first name, spell your last name.
Odell Edwards, OdellEdwards.
Okay. And Jordan Edwards was your son, sir?
Yes,
Kevon Edwards is also your son?
yes,
And Vidal Allen is your stepson, but you regard him as a son.
yes.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury about your family, sir.
We're an outgoing family, loving family. Just like to have fun. Like to go on vacation, do family things. Weekends, we all get together, we go out, me and the boys. I spend a lot of time with my kids. We go out to eat, play football. Even though I try to keep up with them. But because I'm getting old, so, yeah.
You're a big sports fan, right, sir?
Yes,
Yeah. And your kids played sports?
yes,
And let me ask you this, you live in Mesquite.
yes.
What do you do for a living?
I drive trucks. I own my own business, Edwards Express. Edwards Express. Been driving 16 years. Don't look like I'm kind of slim, but yes, that's what I do for a living.
And you live in a nice neighborhood. I've been out to your house about 5 or 10 times, right?
Yes.
Okay. Tell these folks about Jordan.
As y'all know, everybody know I'm smiling, and you get that from me. I smile a lot. Never had any problems with him. Great kid, just like everybody testified to. And he's great in sports, all around kid. Everything he did, he was good in. Pool, he whooped me, my boy, my other kids. Just everything he touched, he was pretty good at. And he loved everybody. Every time I go somewhere, you Jordan that? Yes. You know everybody. People I didn't know, even grown folks.
And he was hoping to play college football someday.
Yes, he wanted to go to Alabama, University of Alabama. I mean, that's pretty much it. He just wanted to go to Alabama.
So let's talk about the decision-making that you had with your kids, where you told them it was okay for them to go to that party on April 29th. Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how they first asked you about this.
As y'all know, I'm a neat freak. As my wife told y'all, we was cleaning up all day. I tell you, I believe in taking furniture all out the room, getting up under the beds, dressers, and all that. My son be there, he was taking it all day. And Jordan asked him, "Are you always the last one?" Because he the one that's have stuff everywhere. So later on that day, they asked me could they go to a party. Of course I said yes, because I never had any issues with them going to a party. They ain't bad kids. Kids they hung around isn't bad at all.
Good kids.
Good kids.
So you didn't have any worries about them going to a party?
No, not at all. So I said yes, and so they left. I told them I love them, like I always do. We always tell each other.
Give your usual instructions, no
Yes,
drugs,
yes,
no alcohol?
no drinking, no drugs. You, if anybody doing that, just leave. Don't stay. No need. Of course, I told them I love them. That was the last thing I told them.
All right. And all these brothers, very close to each other?
Yes. Everybody's close. We all had a good time.
Very close to all those football players that came in here the other day?
Yes, they done been to my house plenty of times. Seen around the neighborhood, football games, parks, mall, everywhere. We always see everybody.
You remember Elondre Henderson that testified
Yes, I
earlier in
do.
this trial?
Yes.
And him and Jordan had the same birthday?
Yes.
Grew up together?
Yes.
Big friends?
Yes.
That little girl, Jordan Patterson, real good friends with him too?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't know her. I just know her from after the incident.
Okay. When was the first time you found out that your little boy had been murdered?
After they left, I went to go order me some wings, watching TV. I was, relaxing, tired. Then my son be there, Alan, he called me, yelling, crying, saying, "Dad, Jordan been shot by the police."
That's Vidal called you.
Yes.
All right.
At the time, I was like, "Huh?" I didn't believe it. He just kept on saying. I said, "Okay." He said he's still driving. I told him to stop the car, and just do whatever the police said. And he just kept on saying it. Then after that, he had to put the phone down because they told him to drop the phone. So, and I kept on calling back, no answer. So I didn't know, they had told me they was going to report it, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to go. So I just hopped in my truck and just like I was driving all over Mesquite looking for my sons. I didn't know where to go, I didn't know who to call or nothing.
That must have been pretty horrible for you, sir.
Yes, I saw an ambulance, and they pretty much just told me to go to the police station, Boxmead police station.
You had real high hopes for Jordan, didn't you, sir?
Yes, I did. He was a great kid. Like again, everybody always told me, "Oh, your kids are good in sports, but that's the one. That's the one." I heard that a lot.
There were allegations made in a civil lawsuit in this case that your sons were drug dealers and gangsters and used guns and shot it up. How do you feel about that?
I think it's BS. My kids ain't nothing like that. They're not no thugs, none of that. They just like to have fun, go out, just be kids. Be kids, that's it. That's crazy. They don't sag, I know you see a lot of kids that sag and all that. They don't do none of that.
And we sent Vidal off to Colorado Springs College after he testified week 4 last, right?
Yes.
And so we were able to start the case because Judge Birmingham let us do this on Thursday so we could get him out of here and up to college, otherwise he'd be here, right?
Correct.
Okay. How has this affected Vidal?
You take it really hard. You can't sleep at night. They obviously eat a lot. I used to always tell them, I'm about cow, a milk cow and a meat cow. Y'all can eat. But to this day, they don't eat like they used to. They take 2-3 bites and that's it. They don't sleep like they used to.
Vidal gonna blame himself?
Yes, he blames himself a lot. He shouldn't. He say he shouldn't have asked me. And I feel the same way. I blame myself a lot too. Cause I shouldn't let them go to the party.
How has this affected your family, sir?
It's not the same without Jordan around. We're missing that one kid. My wife, she be sad all the time. Kavan, he can go somewhere and like the day he went outside and come back, he's crying, hollering, just hollering. I thought something had happened to him. My baby Corey, she still cry out. Say she missed Jordan. Yes. Be there. We can go eat. Me and him, we go eat, and he just start crying out, saying how much. Everybody say how much they miss Jordan. And, we can go out. Me and my boys, just me, come on, and be there. We'll go out, and it's just not the same no more. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Besides, I want you to know your spot right there. Members of the jury, we're going to take a very brief recess. Sheriff, all right, y'all may be seated. Thank you, Sheriff. Y'all may be seated. Members of the jury, 2 minutes. First of all, you all did exactly what you were supposed to do, letting you know that you need a little bit of a break. And sir, I'm going to remind you, you're still on the oath I gave to you before we took the break. Mr. Spicer, you continue with your direct examination where you were.
Thank you, sir. Won't be long. Odell, has your family been the same since this happened?
No, sir. No, not at all.
You think you guys will ever get over this?
What happened to days, it helped a little bit, but no, we won't get over because we'll never get Jordan back. But it do help.
Were you looking forward to being a granddaddy for his baby, sir?
Yes, sir. I heard I always told him my 3 boys, not my baby girl. I come from a big family on my mom's side and my dad's side, so I always told them I want 3 grandkids apiece from each one of them. So I love kids. I love being around kids.
I know you do. I've been with you. So, do you think Jordan deserved to die on the night of April 29, 2017, sir?
No, not at all. He just wanted to go have fun, play with his friends. Well, not play, I'm sorry. No, just hang out with his friends. He ain't no little boy no more, but just wanted to hang out, have a good time, and come home.
And we're hoping he's up in heaven playing football for Alabama right
Yes,
now.
I'm sure he's up there playing, smiling. Every time I go to his grave site, there's a big old field, right, where you can see real good is. I just think of him just out there running around this little chapel that we got where he's at. I just know he's smiling, having a good time, happy.
Odell, thank you for coming down here and talking to these folks.
All right, thank you.
You got to answer questions from them. Ask the witness, Judge.
Mr. Edwards, on behalf of the criminal lawyers here, not a civil team, but the criminal defense attorneys for Mr. Oliver, I can't express any more than what I did during closing arguments. We thank you. Judge, we pass the witness.
Sir, you may stand. Our next witness, will recognize the Honorable Faith Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. We would like to call Charmaine Edwards, please.
As you make your way up, I'm going to remind you that you are the same oath that I gave to you. In the Eagles trial, you may be seated. You'll be responding to questions of Mr. Johnson. And as also Mr. Percetta, Mr. You may proceed to wait.
Charmaine, how are you today?
I'm okay.
And you know you've been sworn in,
Yes, ma'am.
and you're still under oath.
Yes, ma'am.
We had a dialogue conversation back on August 16th, and I want to pick up there and go a little deeper. Is that okay?
Yes.
We've heard from Odell, so we kind of want to hear from you in terms of what all of this has done to you, your family. And when I say all of this, I mean the death of your son, Jordan. So tell us what you've gone through.
It feels like a missing piece of the puzzle. It's like we were a family of 5 originally before Corey came. Then we grew to a family of 6. And now we're back to a family of 5. And that's not what we intended.
So you got a puzzle piece missing there.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
what you're telling the jury?
Yes.
Does everyone in your family feel that way, that there's a missing piece of this family now?
Yes.
For Odell, how it so happen that you have a piece missing?
Because he contributed like pieces of himself to everyone. So for Odell, like he said, that was his buddy when it came to sports. He had somebody to talk to and play with, run outside and just do things with. And then for Corey struggles at school because he was like her person. Whenever she didn't want to go to bed, when we tell her to go to bed, she would run out the room and go run into the room with him. And he would stay up, he would watch TV with her, play with her. That was her playmate. And then you have Vidal, Jordan was always with Vidal. It's never a time where you're going to see one without the other. He was always riding in the car with him. Or if he wanted to go somewhere, Vidal would be the one to take him. And then Kavon's always been the quiet one. So his thing would be games. He liked to play the video game. And Jordan would play video games with him all day long. Like, that was their thing. And for me, it's like, I don't have that person that shares the same interests with me as the other boys. The other boys didn't share that interest that Jordan shared with me. So it would be times where we'd go to the store or to the mall or something, and we see something funny or, you know, just cracking jokes or whatever. He would be the one that's gonna laugh at my corny jokes. Even if they wasn't funny, he was gonna laugh.
So none of the other ones would laugh?
No, no. And then we would watch Lifetime. We would watch Hallmark Channel, Empire, just stuff like that we would do together. And I would always have somebody to go discuss it with, like, what you think about this? Or what were your thoughts? And so that is something that he brought to everyone, and that's gone.
So you all have a board now?
Yes, ma'am.
How can you do that board?
We can't. The closest, I would say the closest way that we do, Vidal has a best friend that was always around, so when we go on family trips, we would take him because he had never been on family trips, but it's still not the same. It's like you have an extra body, but you don't have that spirit that he carried.
So you may have a friend, but you really don't have your son, Jordan.
Right.
And that friend, will that friend ever be able to take the place of Jordan?
Amen.
Can anybody ever take the place of Jordan?
I don't think so.
Now, I'm assuming that at some point, somebody got counseling in your family, is that correct?
The boys.
How long were they in counseling?
Maybe 6 or 7 months.
Why did you decide to put them in counseling?
Well, they cry a lot, and they weren't able to sleep, and then they have flashbacks of what happened.
Because they
Yes.
actually witnessed it.
Yes. And in the beginning, when it first happened, we had to sleep with lights on because they were scared of the dark. So we slept with the lights on.
Have they ever experienced that? They always wanted the lights on before this happened?
No, ma'am.
What was it about that concerned you that they wanted to sleep with lights on?
I think they wanted it because they were traumatized. Because everything happened at night. So it's like when they close their eyes, it's dark. And it takes them back to what originally happened. So I think the closest way to get some kind of rest was to sleep with the lights on.
And where did they receive their counseling?
The Dallas Advocacy Center.
And how long were they in counseling?
I think about 6 or 7 months.
Now, did you ever go through counseling, or Odell go through counseling, or Corey go through counseling?
No, ma'am. We haven't went.
Do you think you all need counseling?
Yes, ma'am.
What about Odell? I noticed he cried earlier. Is that something he allowed you all to see?
No.
Why did you say that?
Because he tried to be strong for everybody else. But I think he needs counseling.
What about you?
I think I do.
Now, what about your daughter? Does she understand what has happened to Jordan?
I don't think she understands completely. She says that he's in heaven.
Did she recently see his face on TV during this trial?
Yes, ma'am. When we watch the news in the morning, because I watch the news every morning, regardless of whatever the situation is, I watch the news. And when the clip came on about the trial, and she said, "Mommy, is that the man that killed Jordan?" And I said, "Yes, that's the man that killed Jordan." And then Jordan's picture would pop up on the TV, and she'd say, "Hi, Jordan." And she'll say, "Mommy, don't cry."
So that was tough for you to see her react that way.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to say to this jury?
So many times that you see on the TV that this has happened, and nothing ever happens. Nothing ever happens. It's like it happens, they justify it, and the police just walk away and don't have to give an account for anything. And I'm forever grateful that y'all seen it in your hearts to see that it was wrong. And I'm thankful. Because for once, I mean, it doesn't bring Jordan back, but we have some kind of closure.
Anything else you want to say? Do you ever think you will be the same?
Of course not.
Is there anything that can make you and your family whole again?
No. I mean, if Jordan could come out the ground and come back, yeah. But it's just trying to get through life without him now. And it's hard because he had a promising future. Like, none of my kids were bad. I'm a strict parent. So I fought myself because had I been there, Odell wouldn't have told him that he could go. But I wasn't there. And he always want the parent that want them to have fun, that want them to experience. And I try to shelter them so they wouldn't have to deal with stuff like this. And it happened.
So it seemed like everybody in the family almost is kind of blaming themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You blame yourself, why?
Because if I was at home, Odell wouldn't have told them. It would have been like an argument amongst all of us because I would say no.
And Odell is blaming himself, why?
Because he said yes.
And then your son Vidal is blaming himself.
He blames himself because when they left, when they originally made the choice to leave the party, Jordan wanted to drive. Vidal would try to teach them around the neighborhood how to drive. And Jordan begged to drive, and Vidal wouldn't let him drive. And he faults himself for that every day.
So he just figured if that one time he let Jordan drive,
It would have been him, not Jordan.
and he would have preferred him rather than Jordan.
That's one of the reasons why he chose to go to Colorado, because he wanted to escape the pain here.
And you still see that pain in Vidal too?
I see it. And although it hurts that he's so far away, he's happy. He's happy being away, not having to deal with all of this. And that sucks because you don't want your kids, like you want them to experience life, but you don't. This is not the life I imagined. It seemed like a nightmare.
Do you seem like you're in a nightmare that's not going to ever allow you to wake
Yes.
up? And I know you all attend church, right?
Yes.
And you have your pastor here with you.
Yes, he's been here every day.
Has that helped you and your family?
Yes, because that's our support system. Our church is our support. That we don't have counseling. We haven't had counseling, so churches like counseling for us. Friends are like counseling for us. That's all we have. Family. That's it.
Anything else you want to say to the group?
Just thank you.
Pastor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Edwards, as parents and as former prosecutors over here, the state offers, and please keep the boys and your daughter in the professional counseling that's available. They'll let you know how to do it,
Okay.
but it's there. Because you've heard my experience. You got to talk to somebody, okay?
Yes.
That stuff's available. All right? Thank you, Your Honor. Pass the witness.
Ma'am, you're standing. Please be careful on the way down. Mr. Snipes, Mr. Johnson.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, the jury stay respectfully rest.
Thank you. Members of the jury, that is the conclusion of the state's case. We are going to break for the day, recess for the day. We're going to probably have similar night that you had last night, the same place that you had. So I'm going to ask you, please don't do any independent research. Please don't talk about this case with anybody in your jury. You're not even allowed to actually talk about it amongst yourself, because we're not deliberating just yet. We'll be in the jury room tomorrow morning, ready to start testimony at 9 o'clock. If there is any. Otherwise, please wait for instructions. Please don't form any opinions about this case. And please mind all the instructions that you have done all the way up until now. Thank you. Court's in recess. Rise for the jurors. Thank you, Sheriff. Y'all may be seated. Mr. Sniper, anything to put on the record before we recess for the day?
No, sir.
Mr. Gill, Mr. Pacific.
No, Your Honor.
What time tomorrow, Judge?
8:30. Court's in recess. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.